This is number 15 of Debunking Democrat Lies One at a Time, and it's going to be a quickie because it's just talking about how the late night comedians faked their tears. I'm convinced, I'm pretty sure, I feel that they were faking their crying and tears, and they did it because for their audience. The audience wasn't faking the tears, most of them, but the people that knew the facts that, Biden dropped out because they didn't have much of a chance to win. And people were realizing his dementia was getting worse. And so Kamala came in at a deficit. Plus, people know that, it's funny. Some of the news, the MSNBC news people didn't know, like, except butter, people are paying $7 for butter. They found that out after the election. So maybe some of these guys haven't paid attention at all, but I think they know what's going on. They knew the numbers. They knew Kamala was the underdog. They even said that. They knew she was the underdog. So they're acting surprised and crying. And after they kept acting like, it's close, and they fudged those numbers when they were saying it's close on a lot of things. That was to encourage people to show up. That's why they would do that, because they want you to show up, and they want Republican voters or Trump voters to not show up because they're scared it's too close or they're behind. They want to make them think they might not have a chance. So they might not go to the polls, right? So really, they got more people to vote by saying it's close. And since it was in a lot of places, it was, even though it was a blowout electoral college-wise, the popular vote, I don't know how it compares to other elections, but the popular vote wasn't but a few, I forget if it's 1,000 or 1,000,000 apart. But what I wish I could remember is the reason I say their tears were fake. Another reason I say their tears were fake is because Jimmy Kimmel read a list of things about feeling sorry for this group and that group and this group and that group that weren't true. And I can't remember. I didn't feel like they were true things. And had tears and acting like so-and-so's going to be hurt and this person's going to be hurt. And that part wasn't true. And so I think they faked the tears and read those lists so it seemed sincere, so they could, build a fire within the followers of the Democrat Party. So they think they're fighting for something good, and they're not fighting for something good. Bottom line, they're not. They're tricking them. So, but Jimmy Fallon, they knew they were the underdogs. It wasn't a surprise, like a shock, and for them to cry about. There was no shock. I'm pretty sure. I've heard 2 stories on that though. But that's mainly what I wanted to say. And I know I'm forgetting something, but I guess that's number 15, Debunking Democrat Lies. And so if the tears, let's say I'm wrong about the tears, I will say that I did want to say that they read a list of things that were all untrue, and I don't remember them. But almost the entire list was wrong that I've heard them talk about. And they know it was wrong. I know they know it's wrong. They didn't just, it's like they act like they're fighting for justice, but they're not. They're fighting to get rid of, we're not the only free country in the world anymore. But I don't know if I'd have to study this and go back and study it, but really, the Republicans built this country. They won the Civil War. They built the freedom country. The Democrats fought against it, and they represented really the side of government that's tried to stop Americans from getting their freedom from Europe years ago. And I've studied this issue recently, the last couple of years, really a lot from a different angle, but a new angle just popped up in my head the last few days, really. And it's clear. It's you just look at the facts and see them from another angle you weren't looking at, and it's already there. It's clear that, some people would say, well, the first time Trump won and they thought Trump's a racist, which is a lie. And they think that the Republicans are against black people. It's the other way around. The Democrat Party's always been against black folks. And now it's just really the party of racism, the Democrat Party is. And so you got black racists in the Democrat Party, you got white racists, and anybody who's racist likes the Democrat Party. They do, because it teaches racism. They're voting for and prejudice and bigotry. So like they make it always got to be about the skin. It's got to be about man or woman or something, and it's not about that. It's about policies, getting our prices down, getting us jobs, protecting our country. So it's not about racism at the border either. It's about keeping Russian spies out. And I don't mean to pick on Russia on that, but that's I'm just trying to relay a message. The Democrats make Russia look like the worst country in the world. They're not the worst country in the world, that's for sure. But but they do tend to have spies and good intelligence, and so you hear about Russian spies partly because they have good capability and good intelligence. So, but those spies can come across our border under the Democrats, right? And they're probably sophisticated enough they don't even have to come across the border. They can fly here, right? But so a lot of them have come across the border, I'm sure. And from every country. A lot of people that came here were being spies. Nobody's ever talked about that, by the way. So I guess I'm just can reiterate that, these guys, they know that stuff. And when they lie about the border, they know that stuff. And so I'm pretty sure the tears were fake with some of those guys. I don't think the tears were fake by the voters, most of the voters, but these guys are responsible for lying to them. The comedians lie. And the thing, by the way, I've heard Fox News talk about how those guys aren't funny. They're naturally funny. I like Jimmy Fallon the best, but I've heard him say something against Trump and I didn't like it. I always thought he might be in the middle like an independent. And then that's the first time I've heard him clearly hate on Trump after the election. And I was disappointed because I was just hoping maybe he's not going to be so judgmental and be in between. And by the way, let's talk about judge. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. You always used to hear the Democrat Party saying, but what have they done to Trump? They have judged him. Don't hate, don't hate, don't hate. That's a word you always hear from the Democrat side, used to. And nobody's hated more than them in history. No government has hated. By the way, nobody's ever hated men more than the Democrat Party in the history of the world. I don't recall any story in the world history of any governments or countries teaching their women to hate men. But the Democrat Party has tried to get women to hate men in America, especially, and they'll use throw the white part in it to make it worse, and act like the Republican. And they try to get them to hate Republican men, white Republican men, and make it look like they were the Democrats, like they were the ones that did slavery and all. Nope, the ones trying to get you to hate Republican men are the same side that did slavery, and they're still doing slavery. But when they're bringing slavery across the border, they got people cleaning their toilets. The girl slipped up on The View and said it. But there's nothing wrong with cleaning toilets. I've wanted to be a janitor. I've been a janitor before. But I've been sanitation. I've worked in sanitation departments a couple times. And I didn't mind it. But I sure would mind it in some places, I'll tell you that, if people are really messing it up. But I did it in college. I did it for a warehouse, and that was and I forget where else, but that might be the only two I did. But they weren't that messy. But if you go, like if you're working parks in town and maybe libraries in towns where a lot of people mess up the bathrooms, sometimes on purpose, that's hard to do. I wouldn't love that, I don't think. But sanitation, being a janitor, a lot of these people that come across the border, they're working for people in Hollywood, probably in their house, under the table for $2 an hour. That's possible. That's part of the problem of bringing them across the border like that. We don't know what they're doing. And some lady slipped up, one of the Osborne girls, I think Osborne's daughter, on The View the other day, slipped up. I don't know if it was the other day, but there was a recording of her saying, they can't clean your toilets. The Hispanics come over and clean the toilets. And she slipped and said that. And it came out wrong, and they thought that sounded prejudice. But really, That's probably what's going on a lot of times with a lot of the rich folks that are in the Democrat side. They're probably bringing them in, having them work under the table, no ID, and they could be paying $2 an hour for all we know, which they'll probably do better than that. I hope they do. But that's the point. That's slavery. If they're making them clean if they're the janitors of their house or the maids for $2 an hour under the table, that's not right. You're mistreating the people coming across the border. See? So it's that, and that might be part of why some groups, there's definitely some groups that support that for that reason. And those groups could be 1 million people. So you have 1 million slaves we don't know about. Working under the table, no name, hidden. They have they can stay in a small shed in the back. It's not fair. And so anyhow, don't think that Jimmy Kimmel and all them don't know that stuff. But when these guys lie all the time, they lie about Trump being a fascist, a racist. Since we're on the subject of these guys, these comedians lie. And that's what's not funny. The lies aren't funny. These guys are funny. And, I've heard Sean Hannity talking about how they're not even funny anymore. And they're not, because they're so hateful and mean. It's not comedy. That's not comedy. They try to, but they're talented at being funny. And so they try to make light of being hateful and make it seem funny and make it popular to hate somebody. And that's not good. That's not funny. It's not funny to, it's not okay to hate Donald Trump. No matter how you feel about him or who you are, you're supposed to battle your own hatred against him and his followers. And the Republicans are supposed to battle against hate and anger against Democrats too. And so, and be objective and have real justice. But it comes a time when you have to fight for freedom. And we did that in the Civil War. And the Republicans won the Civil War and ended slavery. The Democrats fought the Civil War, trying to keep slavery and trying to be that old European government. And the thing is, at that point, instead of us kicking the Republicans, I'm an independent technically, but I lean Republican, used to be Republican. And the reason I'm independent is because I disagree with, I think our drug laws are sabotage drug laws. I think it's all sabotage. Almost all of it. I think that's the biggest problem in America, is the drug laws. It's the punishment for it, all the rules, and allowing cartels to deal some of the best medicines in the strongest forms, whereas really they're not bad if you have them in a 2% form. Some things that are on the street could be like coffee and tea, and their simplest plant form. But they've brought out the strongest forms to the street, put people in bad situations where they can be isolated and robbed and all these kind of things. And so people, they'll get nervous if they feel like if they're pre-exposed to medicine. And this has nothing to do with the fact that I think people should try to stay off drugs, but, for your health, if nothing else, and just to try to keep your mind level. But they do coffee and tea and chocolate. And if you legalize certain things, the natural forms, then it won't be much worse than coffee, tea, and chocolate. But by the way, which coffee, tea, and chocolate can kill you too. But if you do too much, you have a heart attack or a stroke. You get cranky. A lot of reason people are antisocial is because they get too much caffeine. And so, they don't know that. So we should be more honest about that too. And so they're still downside to it, because those things are sneaky. They can sneak up on you. They're addictive. And, it sneaks up on you if you pile too much up on you 3 days in a row. Of too much tea 3 days in a row, you get your feet hurt. Your feet can hurt. Your bones can hurt from too much tea. That's because of tannins and tea. It builds up on your joints. Anyway, that's a nutritional subject. But, these guys they know what's going on. And I forgot my other point, and I'm probably going to end here before 15 minutes, and that's in 25 seconds. So I thought this would be a short one, but I kind of had to dance around it and couldn't remember all the subjects. But these guys know about how, you got people come across the border, and they got ladies working nightclubs under the table and prostituting on the side, and not by choice. They're being pimped. Anyway, I'll end right there. And that, by the way, they know that. And so when they act like that hurts women, that doesn't help women. And it's the Democrats that they promote pimpery and they need the abortion. The men need the abortion, but there's female pimps too. But it's the pimps that they need the abortion so they can keep if their prostitute gets pregnant, they need to kill that baby. So with abortion, that's their real view. That's their view. And they're gonna. Some people want to take me off and say you can't talk like that. You can't bring false information, misinformation. We'll try to take it down. I can tell you, those people, they'll talk angry like they want to kill the baby, literally. So, and they talk mean about it, and I'm not going to repeat it. But they want to do that so they can keep their prostitute working, right? The other reason people want to kill babies is men. It's for men, not women. They don't want to pay child support. I ain't paying child support. She's gonna go have an abortion. No, we need to have that abortion because I ain't paying child support, right? And so I'm not supporting our child support methods. I think the man should have an option first to pay out of pocket, just between him and her. And then I don't think they should I haven't studied this deep, but they probably shouldn't pile up the years of missed years for child support, except if it was purposely avoided for years and he didn't help out at all. But it's hard to prove. I think you should, if somebody helps out their ex or whatever, and not through child support, but they should make documents of it. And then, but if there's no documentation, I guess you can pile up some years. But it seems almost like making a man a debt slave. So I mean, I don't think that should work out that way. I think, but the welfare system shouldn't be separating men and women when they have a child together. It should try to complement them being together. Now, you can't force them to be together if they don't get along, but if they get along, it should help complement them being together. Anyway, so there's a lot other stuff wrong, and they should promote adoption because abortion's not comfortable either to a woman's body. It's not any more comfortable than a C-section or giving birth, I don't think. It's probably not. Some people, it can't be, it's not nothing. You're going up in and cutting out a baby. So, and from what I understand, women die from abortions too. Makes sense, doesn't it? They die from having an abortion. You got broken pieces of the baby inside. I don't know if it always all comes out, when they cut it up. So there's more than one way to doing it, I guess. But, so Roe v. Wade, in my opinion, didn't cover that too well. It allowed for too much and late, it'd be easier to do a C-section, I would think, after so many months, and you might save the baby and promote adoption. But the other message that Democrats give, women is, I know this is a little off the subject, but the other message they send to them is, you're not good enough to be a mother. And then they talk them into abortion. Or, you're not rich enough to be a mother. You need to have more money. You'll probably never be rich enough to be a mother. Not anytime soon. They talk them into an abortion. That's not supposed to be the case. The abortion was supposed to be considered only in rape cases. And so that's still a tough one because it's not the baby's fault. So if you look at the baby like it's a life, like I do, you have to say it's still not the baby's fault, and you should promote abortion and help give counseling to the woman and talk her into not hating the child, because the child is not the man who raped them. The child, it might, if it's psychological problems because it reminds you of who did the rape, and you don't want it close to you. You don't want the child because you're raped. You can promote adoption. So I'm just saying we should favor that counseling, those options, and side on the side of life if there is going to be an abortion at all, and it should be in the first few weeks or first month, because I don't know when people find out after 2 weeks if they're pregnant, but they should be suspicious the first 2 weeks already if they're pregnant. So I think as soon as conception happens, and you have an abortion, I think that is killing a baby. That's killing a baby, technically. So that's a tough call on that. But that's the only consideration for abortion that should be if considered at all, should be a consideration. Nothing else beyond that should be a consideration. I mean, it's not right at all. It's just not. It's a baby. It's a human baby. It's not for selling baby parts, which they do. The Democrats sell baby parts and do stem cells and everything else, and they promote it because they're making money off it. The science is making money off babies, and they're helping people with it because it's body parts, and they're calling it not a human, but they're using the human body parts from the babies and some abortion to study science and doctrine and to give to people like donors, donate to other people's bodies, stem cells, I think. Anyway, so these guys know that stuff. And they act like it doesn't exist. They do fact checking and they try to block videos like this to stop you from being informed. That's dictatorship. That's tyranny and dictatorship. Tyranny is you have to follow the rules, but they don't. And so we're supposed to have a free flow of information. We're supposed to be able to discuss this stuff, whether I know all the facts or not. I can address the subject. I can tell you bits and pieces and suspicions. And you should be allowed to have conspiracy theories. And there's nothing wrong with conspiracy theories and investigation. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to end this. But I'm pretty sure the tears were fake. So this one, I can't call out and say 100% that's a lie that they had fake tears. But I think they could have been crying for the other people. But they already knew. I'm pretty sure they already knew Kamala was going to lose. And Kamala. A lot of people knew, and a lot of Democrat voters didn't know, but a lot of the Republican voters know because they watch real news. They watch real news. Kamala is the one that was in charge of the border. The vice president is the person in charge of security at the border, and Kamala was the one letting all these people in. And and I'm not against letting decent people in who love America, but they let a lot of people in that hate America and that brought fentanyl here, and they're letting that go. And she could have let KK in, and who knows, why would she do that? But she might not do that part on purpose, but she left it so wide open that they couldn't, that for other people she wanted in that weren't good necessarily. She may have purposely wanted some bad people in, but she left it so wide open that KKK and everybody else could have come in, European KKK. So that's just an example, but European KKK could come in just as easily as Islamic terrorists, or just as easily as Russian spies, as easily as other people who would come here to want to take over. So, all right, I'm just going to end with that. I believe there were fake tears. There were some fake tears by the comedians, late night comedians, and I don't think they're funny. They're lying about people and teaching hate for people is funny. It's not funny. I can't watch it even. But I certainly think Jimmy Fallon's a funny, naturally guy, and he's doesn't do as much as those other guys. Jimmy Kimmel, he can be funny, but he seems mostly hateful. And also, the other one's really funny, Stephen Colbert. He's funny, used to be, but he's turned, and he used to be hateful though. He's been hateful for a long time. And he turned my stomach. I kept watching him for a lot of times, and he was so funny and seems connecting when he's funny. I'm hoping that he changes and sees the light, But over the last few years, he's gotten worse, and he just seems hateful all the time. It's not even. He's not one that's lost his funniness. He's not as funny anymore. Anyway,